I generally make the kind of videos that I want to watch myself. I make long, sprawling, free-form conversational podcast videos all the time, 40-minute videos, hour-long videos, because that's what I want to watch myself. And I hear from all other people who are the same way. You know, you're washing the dishes, you're lifting weights, I don't know, you're exterminating rats from your basement, and you want to listen to a long-format podcast. Not everybody wants that. Some people want focused 5-minute videos that get right to the point. So I thought I might do a series of videos of that kind, providing advice and reflections on teaching English in China. This is the first of those videos. So look, we're going to cover 2 topics in this video, and 2 topics only. The economics of teaching English in China and the visa situation. So I posted our earlier discussion, which is a sprawling, free-form, 40-minute podcast. It contains some useful information, but some people find it annoying to get the information out of that format. I posted that to a Reddit discussion group for exactly these kinds of issues, and I noticed they had like a disclaimer that they wouldn't even allow people to discuss going to China without getting the proper work visa. And, you know, apparently, like, I guess the moderators were just so sick of people writing in wanting advice about, like, oh, well, they've been invited to come and work in China, but the employer admits they can't really do the paperwork, and so on and so forth. Although I do not think it is the definitive reason to either work in mainland China or to not work in mainland China. This is an endemic problem. And in 2017, it's getting worse and worse. My prediction is in 2018, it'll be a complete disaster. And then in 2019, the government will recognize it's a disaster and change the rules. Like, I don't think this can go on forever. But yeah, right now, it has absolutely hit a crisis point. If your employer admits to you that they can't do the paperwork, they're being honest with you, and you should encourage that honesty. Back in like 2007, it was true that like the stereotype was that small, private, for-profit schools couldn't get the paperwork together, but that large institutions like universities, I teach English at a university, that they had no problem. Maybe back in 2007 that was accurate. Today it's just this endemic problem across the board. And you get schools that are offering to employ you as a teacher, but they'll fill out the paperwork as if you're like an administrative assistant, as if you're doing some other job or some other role where they can process the paperwork. And even the big institutions like universities will say to you, well, we want you to come here to teach, but you could simultaneously take classes learning Chinese or some other language, and we'll do the paperwork so that you're a student and you get a student work visa where you can work within the premises, you can work within the university, while at the same time taking lessons. So long story short on that is, you got to see this from the employer's perspective. I don't know why. I mean, there's this really kind of hostile, self-indulgent attitude that predominates on the internet, because that's the way people use the internet, I guess. They come on when they just want to vent. But, you know, think about it from the employer's perspective just a little bit. If you're asking an employer to choose you and commit a lot of time and money to you, maybe training you also, like if you don't have a background already as an English teacher, and they've never met you, like you're just doing an interview via Skype, it's a lot to ask. It's understandable that a lot of these employers are trying to say, well, look, can you come for an interview in person? Can you come and teach demo lessons? Come and teach a couple lessons with observation, and then we'll decide if we want to commit to doing this paperwork for you. And the truth is, even then, they may not be able to deliver the paperwork, and it may be for bizarre reasons that are beyond their control and beyond your control. So I'm an experienced English teacher, although it's not my career. I did it in between other jobs. But when I came here to teach English, they wanted paperwork from Cambodia, because I had formerly been employed as an English teacher in Cambodia. They wanted paperwork from Thailand and Laos and this stuff, and I just laughed at them. I said, look, if I go on a world tour to get you paperwork from all these countries, I'll never earn back that money doing this job. The rate of pay is so low, you got to be kidding me. But that's what they wanted, and this was for teaching at university level in China. So again, and I had brought all the correct paperwork from Canada, but that wasn't enough. I did have a criminal record check. I do have a bachelor's degree. I have proof that I have a bachelor's degree. I had everything else in line. So it's a disaster. And China is not your only option. If what you want is to learn Chinese and teach English, you can go to Taiwan. You can go to Hong Kong. I wouldn't advise it because, for one thing, mostly in Hong Kong they speak Cantonese and quite a number of other southern dialects, but not so much Standard Chinese. And also, Hong Kong is a horrible city to live in. I have lived and worked in Hong Kong in the past, not as an English teacher. I had a much more high-paying job there, which is what made my life possible in Hong Kong. So this is the point, is you just have to see it in a comparative framework. Like, if China is such a drag about visa paperwork, Why not go to Hong Kong? Why not go to Hong Kong instead? Why not go to Taiwan instead? Why not go to South Korea instead? Why not go to Japan instead? Why not go to Brazil instead? Like, the world's your oyster. Why not go to Portugal instead? It could be fabulous living as an English teacher. There are different places in Europe that employ a lot of English teachers. So China is eliminating itself as a viable option in 2017. Whereas I would say back in like 2005, it was really the Wild West. It was the land of opportunity. But increasing requirements for credentials, and it's not even the credentials that are the problem. It's just paperwork for the sake of paperwork. It's ceasing to be a viable option. And the other thing I was going to mention here is the economics of the situation. So look, I already knew I was highly paid. I came here in person. I interviewed for this job face-to-face before they gave me the job, which most of you don't have the luxury of doing. If you're living in New York City, you can't just casually fly to China for a job interview. I was already living in Kunming, so I flew to Dehong, for the job interview, and flew back again. And they did pay for my airplane ticket after the fact. They said, we can pay for your airplane ticket if we give you the job, but not if you don't pass the interview. I said, okay, I'll take that risk. So I flew in, had a face-to-face interview, and that put me in a very strong negotiating position, I would say, for this job. So I negotiated a whole list of things that weren't on offer by default with the job. I'm paid more than any other foreign language teacher they've ever employed in the past. And I found out just recently, I'm paid more than my own boss. My own boss in the institution makes less than me on a monthly basis. So I can't ask for anything more. There's no way it could be reasonable for me to ask this institution to pay me a higher rate than I'm getting. And for you also, that's true. But what am I paid? I am paid 5,000 kwai per month. 5,000 yuan, 5,000 of the Chinese currency. So compared to even the humblest job in Canada, compared to working at a gas station, serving coffee at a Starbucks, the pay is garbage. The pay is nothing compared to the sacrifice in time, effort, and energy you're going to make coming over here. The pay, however, is excellent if you're comparing this to being in a master's degree program in the United States, if you're comparing this to paying tuition to learn Chinese in a really crappy environment in a university in Canada. So instead of me paying $5,000 a year in tuition in Canada, or me paying $20,000 a year to study in the United States, I am getting a sort of educational experience. If I consider myself a student, I'm maybe breaking even financially. She's I don't think I am. I think this is costing me a lot more than I'm earning, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'm spending less money here for that educational opportunity to learn Chinese. So if you're asking the question broadly in terms of economics, should you do it? The answer absolutely cannot be economics. If you want to earn money, maybe South Korea is a different story. Maybe Taiwan's a different story. Maybe Japan is a different story. I'm very skeptical that those can be justified financially, keeping it all the way real. But I'm telling you, mainland China in 2017, the justification must be your own education, your own self-improvement. It cannot possibly be the money. The money alone doesn't justify the exercise. And that is part and parcel of why, as I've already said, 2017, 2018 is going to be a nationwide crisis in China, because even the universities that offer excellent living conditions, health insurance, really great package of benefits I get here. I mean, I'm treated much better than 90% of English teachers, 90% or 95%. I got a great deal here, and I get to teach. All my students are also well prepared. They know how to study. I don't have hostile students who don't want to learn English or something. Really great situation in so many ways. But nevertheless, this job can't compete with Taiwan, and it can't compete with me going back to Canada to work in a gas station, even if working at the gas station was the only option I had. So therefore, there's absolutely no way I can look into this camera and say to you honestly, this is a good option for you, or this is a great option, unless it's an option you're pursuing for your own education. You want to learn Chinese, you want to learn Burmese, you want to learn some other language that's taught at the particular university you're studying at. That's it for this video. I am out.